Hi, my name's Mark from Martin Lynch & Sons, call sign Golf 1 Delta X-Ray. And today we're going to cover a very exciting radio. It's called an ANAN-G2. But first I want you to ask yourself the question, what type of a user and ham are you? Are you someone that likes an out-of-the-box experience and likes a radio with controls, knobs and buttons, pan adapter, etc.? Or are you someone that's really interested into the technologies and how a radio works and really are focused on the performance of how that transceiver works? If you're the latter and you're really drawn by a radio's performance and experimentation and excellence, then the ANAN-G2 should be top of your list, and the guys that build it are very much enthusiasts. So today we're going to review the ANAN-G2, one of the two models from ANAN. So firstly, what is an ANAN-G2? Good question. It's an SDR transceiver, and very briefly, I'm sure you can Google what an SDR transceiver is, software defined radio, but for those of you, assuming you know what it is, an SDR, this is a 100 watt, 2 receiver transceiver. So just to be clear, there are two variants of the ANAN-G2. There is this variant, which does not have a user interface and requires either plugging in a console or a laptop. And that can be very much thought of as the non-M version of a flex radio. And there's another type of ANAN-G2 which comes with a Raspberry Pi powered user panel which has a pan adapter on it and a touch screen, and that can be very much thought of as the M series from Flex Radio. The user software that drives this radio is from the Power SDR family tree, and its variant is called an HP SDR, and that powers both the Windows variant and the Raspberry Pi variant. Inside this transceiver is really beautifully made hardware. It's got twin physical bandpass filters per receiver. It's got 200 watt finals derated to 100 watts. And it's got a direct sampling 16-bit SDR receive on twin channel and 14-bit transmit DAC. Very high spec, very high performance, and you can only really get to appreciate all its qualities when you start using it. Now, who would this radio appeal to? Anyone that likes experimentation and is in the pursuit of excellence, both transmit and reception. And also anyone that likes to do something outside of your regular SSB, AM, FM. If you want to do double sideband, SAM, or digital audio Mondal, or like experimenting with different types of transmit bandwidths, this is an absolute must-have. So as you can see on this model, the front user interface is somewhat Spartan. It has a very nice on-off switch, but the real pierce to resistance is in the back of the radio, and this will give you some idea just how powerful this radio is. So if we look at the back of the radio, we have, let's start from the bottom. We've got 3 regular antenna transceiving ports. We then have a receive bypass port for doing all various things, an external input port. We've got also a second receiver port. So in effect, you've got 4 ports just on receive. You've got 2 HDMI ports, not DVI, HDMI ports. And then again, we often get asked on certain transceivers, can you drive a transverter? And the answer is yes, you can. It's got a transverter output port, but it's also got a 10 meg reference port for those of you that want your transceiver absolutely smack on frequency. I won't pretend to know every single function of every single port on here. The other thing that's amazing is it's got external speaker ports. So if you can drive speakers from this directly, or you can drive speakers from this via your PC. Microphone inputs, and also you've got a headphone jack output for your headphones as well. In terms of microphone inputs, you've got an XLR balanced microphone input. You have a headphone stroke 3.5mm jack type microphone input, and more than that, that microphone input can be either an electret style microphone, say from your ICOM rigs, or your dynamic type of microphone that you might be using with your Yaesu or Kenwood rigs. It will accept either, it doesn't matter, because you can alter the gain. Or indeed, if you're using a computer, you can use your computer headphones via a USB connector. Complete flexibility. So I think, you have two USB inputs, because on board this machine also is a Raspberry Pi that does the management and also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. It's all part. So utter flexibility. You want it, you've got it, whichever mix you want. So that's the hardware, and we had a look at the back of the radio. And now we're going to have a very brief look at the Thetis software, which is running on my laptop at the moment. And I want to show you some of the takeaway features that jumped out at me as to being exceptional. So the first one to cover, and any ANAN user will, I'm sure, concur this, is the noise reduction built in to the combination, the package. We're just going to turn on, let me just turn off the noise reduction to start with. We're just going to turn on the audio so you can hear what we're listening to.
I completely avoid it.
Okay.
But it's Ollie and I mean, that's up and something.
Noise reduction 1 is kind of what you get on most other radios, good radios, but noise reduction 2 is, it takes it to another level. We're just waiting for the guys to come in. What I'm going to quickly do is tune into something else.
Occasionally, it could be midnight.
If I turn that noise reduction off.
I don't know what night it runs, I can't remember. There's a North American net on about
and that's just
7.18 something.
Noise reduction in the radio. This is not using any other techniques. It's just how the software gets rid of the noise.
And
incredible.
Worked 8 to 10 different.
Now, in addition to the software noise reduction, it's also got a feature called antenna diversity. So this is along the lines of those phase noise reducers that you can buy as third-party boxes. MFJ makes one. I've got one that's made in Ukraine. This takes that kind of technology to another level, where it uses receiver 1 and receiver 2, and between there the software interpolates inputs from two different antennas to work out what's noise and what's actual audio, and you get a noise reduction effect using the diversity. In addition to that, you also have the software noise reduction as well. So you can really carve away through the QRM and hear the signal you want using the various features built into the ANAN, 2 of them that I've shown you. The other one that's very popular and very exceptional is the transmit audio quality. Now, all of the popular transceiver ratings that you will be referring to, how well XYZ transceiver performs, etc., is to do with its reception. Not necessarily, and very rarely, to do with its transmit. The thing that sets the ANAN apart is the purity and the quality of its transmit audio. So anyone that's had exposure to a TS890 or a TS990 from Kenwood may be aware that it's got a 10-band graphic equalizer on it for voice quality. Well, on the ANAN, it takes it to a different level. So I'm just going to show you. DSB, CFC. So on the ANAN, we have at least two types of treatments we can do to our voice prior to it going through to the transmitter. Firstly, we've got a speech compressor. Now, this isn't the same as an RF clipper type compressor you find in many radios. It is more along the lines of what the broadcaster would use, like the BBC. It will compress your voice, but critically, the compression can be controlled in 10 separate and discrete bands. So for some parts of your voice, you might want the S's or the bass parts compressed more than others, and the 10-band speech compressor can take that into account, and it's adjustable, and those 10 bands, by the way, are user definable as well. After it's been compressed, you can equalize it again with 10 bands, user definable. And then on top of that, if you want to, you can also put it through a spectral compressor, which is more along the lines of a regular compressor in a radio, where it just compresses everything, and you can adjust it to give you an RF clipper type of effect. Generally speaking, though, the ANAN users tend to not use that kind of compression. They just use the 10-band graphic compression, because that gives you the most natural type of compression without it sounding over boomy or distorted. In addition to that, it has a feature on the radio called pre-distortion. Now, that's to do with the way you set up the transmitter. We won't go into that now, but pre-distortion takes the output from your radio or linear, monitors it, and feeds it back into the input to adjust and pre-distort the input into the system. So if you've got any sidebands that are coming up, it will effectively put the reverse of those sidebands into the input to make the output clear. So if you're looking at that on a spectrum analyzer, you'll notice that the sidebands, the unwanted sidebands and harmonics, are drastically reduced. It does need setting up, this, by the way, so it's not an out-of-the-box solution. But again, a lot of hams in Germany use this, and have done so for many years with the various other forms of ANAN. But again, you will notice that on waterfall displays, the fur that you see down some of the transmissions of our various hands transmissions will disappear, and you'll have just nice clean waterfall. Again, you can hear that as well. Another feature I love about the ANAN software package is the AGC that runs on the waterfall. So I'm going to show you now. If I put in a normal radio, say anyone from ICOM or Kenwood or from Yaesu, if I whack in the attenuator, I will have to readjust the band scope to get a decent contrast between the signals that we want to see, such as we're seeing here, the waterfall signals, and the background. not on the ANAN. The ANAN automatically adjusts the waterfall, contrast, AGC, call it what you will, so you carry on seeing a useful visual representation of what you're receiving. I really like that feature because I quite often was jockeying the controls on my other transceivers. Another thing I like about the software is that, again, I'm sure you will operate your transceivers in different methods, but for instance, at home, I tend to have my transceiver with about 12 dBs of attenuation and the preamp turned off. That's great, gives me great audio quality on receive, but unfortunately it messes up your S meter readings. So again, I'm going to draw your attention at the moment we're reading S meter 7, okay, and I've got no attenuation in. If I now put 30 decibels of attenuation, generally that will affect the S meter reading, and almost instantaneously recalibrates itself, still reading S7, but I've got 30 dBs of attenuation in there now. That's a really super feature, and it means that if a ham would like a signal report from you, you can give him both the radio and the S meter report quickly without messing about with the controls on your radio. Just read it straight from the meter. The TX power of the radio. Again, there's many 100-watt radios, but this is an easy 100 watts. The finals in this radio are rated to 200 watts, but it's derated to 100 watts to give you a really bulletproof and full 100 watts TX power, and coupled with the compression that you can achieve on the TX audio, you're going to be have a very nice, strong and clean signal. The other thing I like about the radio is the country-specific band plans that are preloaded. So if I go into the setup, where you've got here the different countries, every country here, popular country, is loaded in the software. So when I'm moving the cursor about, it tells me exactly where I am in the band plan. So it says currently on this frequency I'm on the 40 meter band and all modes are acceptable. Terrific. Additionally, for those of you that like operating in a more shall we say unconventional way, it's got a one tick box Mars modification. So when you tick the extended box, you're now operating in the Mars mode and to do whatever you want. And unlike some other transceivers, to put it back into conventional mode again, so you can only TX in the ham bands, uncheck the extended mode and you're back into the ham specific ham bands, and it will disable TX outside of the ham bands. Can be very useful to some people. The other thing I like about it is the RX bandpass filters. So you've got the physical bandpass filters in the radio, but the actual bandwidth filters here, it's got both preset bandwidth filters, but also infinitely variable. So you can vary them as much as you like to give you various effects of the bandwidth. You can have it as wide or narrow as you want, and even though this is all being done in software, because it's a direct sampling 16-bit DAC on both of the receivers in this radio, the effect is dramatic. And frankly, even though I own a Yaesu FTDX 101, the software filters here are indistinguishable from the roofing filters in my 101. It's that good. It's extremely good. The other thing I like is the evolving user interface. Now, I've only had this radio 4 weeks of use. It's been pleasurable 4 weeks, but I've tried several different versions of Thetis. I'm currently using a beta on here, and if I go on to the GitHub website, I'm sure there'll be another one to download by tomorrow. So when you get bored, you can try a different download of Thetis. If you get fed up with using it on a Windows machine, you can use the Pi HP SDR on a Raspberry Pi. And in fact, we will be trying to install it directly running on the radio as well. The other thing I like about it is the transmit mode flexibility. So some radios, you've got SSB, AM, FM, CW. On this, it takes it one step further. You've got SAM, which is a variant of AM to give you more clarity. You've got double sideband suppressed carrier, if you want to experiment with that. And you have digital radio Mondale, which is a digital mode on HF, which potentially can give you DAB-like quality. But again, that's total flexibility. And the other thing is, of course, the transmit bandwidth. You can vary that at least up to 6 kilohertz. So again, incredible flexibility, lots of interesting things to do. I have only touched the surface of it today. As I said, currently at home, I've got the FTDX 101D, and Martin's kindly lent me this radio to review at home. And you know what? Maybe sometime in the future, this might be finding a little place in the Kenton household. And if you have any questions, call the store, call me, call one of my colleagues. We're here to help you. And I hope you've enjoyed the review, and I hope if you do buy this radio that you'll enjoy the ownership of this amazing piece of technology.